1990 was the year of the Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet album. These sneakers pay homage to the album, and with Puma we start asking the questions on how relevant that music is today and why these sneakers make sense to pair alongside the discussion of the anniversary. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Soul Knowledge, the home of the sneaker story and the home of sports culture insights. I'm your host Bernie Wickham and I'm the sneaker evangelist. In this episode we take a look at a collaboration which Puma has done with Def Jam, but more specifically with Public Enemy and paying homage to the 1990 album Fear of a Black Planet. For those of you who are not familiar, Public Enemy is a black consciousness rap group which started in the 80s. And Fear of a Black Planet is actually their third album. The first being Yo Bum Rush the Show, the second being It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, and then the 1990 classic, Fear of a Black Planet. Chuck, in his message, tries to teach people to just think beyond the state of oppression that exists in the United States towards black people. Then to actually mobilize an idea of saying, you guys need to get off the seat and you need to move forward and make action, make change. The question I keep asking myself, however, is was that a message that was relevant in the 80s and is no longer relevant today? Will it sadly still be relevant in many years to come? And I want to let you know with what's been happening in the United States throughout that time. I mean, these albums were written before Rodney King. Just a couple of weeks ago, depending on when you're watching this, George Floyd became relevant. So I want us to reflect about it. I want us to think about it, its relevance, as we start tackling the idea of this and have a look at how the sneakers actually speak into this thinking too. Getting into the detail of what is, I believe, the best piece of this entire collection is the Clyde. Now, what's been cool about this is that it's actually taken on the branding of Fear of a Black Planet, but it's used the same font of the actual Public Enemy brand that you would see on either side. So both sides of the shoe has been branded with Public Enemy Fear of a Black Planet. For those of you who are not too familiar, and I know I've been asked this question before, is Bernie, what is the difference between the Puma Suede and the Clyde? Walt Frazier, the NBA player who played for the New York Knicks, he was a legend that was actually playing in the Puma Suedes at the time. But he was working on his own signature shoe and he loved the suede so much that he wanted to have a few adaptations made to it. Walt actually thought that the styling was a bit too wide and it felt a bit too wide for him on the suede side of things. So this shoe was reconstructed to have a much narrower fit. You will notice that the Clyde has actually got a sharper toe when compared to a suede. Also, he wanted the shoe to be lighter and more flexible. So there are certain performance differences that do exist between the suede and the Clyde. This period of time does, however, represent something significant in the iconic product journey for Puma. And the Clydes and the Puma suedes represents a point in time where there was a massive color blowout for shoes. And historically, that had really not been a trend for performance footwear at the time. Now let's put it into context. The suede goes live in 1968 and the Clyde goes live in 1973. Think of those times with a color blowout. That really meant something for basketball as a movement, but also at the same time was the b-boy movement. And that is where the level of hip-hop and that influence starts becoming a lot relevant, because both of them are kind of two sides of the same coin. Now, just for those of you who are wondering, it's called the Clyde. Although the athlete's name was Walt Frazier, he had worn hats at the time that was worn by Warren Beatty in the movie Bonnie and Clyde. And since he had worn the same hats, the name stuck. He got called Clyde, and that's why his signature remains on the styling of the shoe. Now watch out for this. On the tongue, on the heel, and also within the sock liner, you will see the Public Enemy logo. Matter of fact, you even see it behind me over here. This is quite an interesting one because in the branding itself, Chuck D once explained to Rolling Stones magazine the significance of what the logo actually stands for. Many thought at the time that the logo was actually that of a state trooper that was depicted in the logo through the crosshairs. but in actual fact, it is a b-boy standing in his b-boy stance. Now, these are typical images of what that b-boy looks like and what he had represented. Have a look at the hat specifically. Now, in naming the group Public Enemy, Chuck takes reference to the United States Constitution, which once recognized black folk being 3/5 of a human being. Now, what he said was, since this was a public document, and in many cases black people were represented as the enemy, he thought organically it would make sense if he has a group that calls themselves the Public Enemy. And that's how the name stuck. When you consider Fear of a Black Planet as an album, I mean, there are many tracks that just get you moving. Brothers Gotta Work It Out, Welcome to the Terradome, 911 is a joke. But there's one song that just focuses the mind, and that one song and its line has been encapsulated on the Sky Alex, and that is Fight the Power. There is no other way to play Fight the Power but with this advisory.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Fight the Power is a song that is so relevant today as it was back in the day, and I'll share an insight to you just now. But check this out, even in the way that it starts, it hits the tone with Thomas Todd, an activist who's speaking about soldiers going to the war in Vietnam. As it starts, it says, "Yet our best trained, best educated, best equipped, best prepared troops refuse to fight. Matter of fact, it's safe to say that they would rather switch than fight." Then the beat kicks in and you know what the rest is. It's history. But Fight the Power puts you in a position where you can say, what are the things in my time or in my day that I'm fighting? What are the things I want to push back and stand up for and not be complacent for? That idea is encapsulated within this shoe. If you know the music video well enough, you will remember that it's staged that almost looks like a protest and a concert all in one. And there are many people walking the streets that are actually wearing t-shirts that say Fight the Power. And the color of those t-shirts is white and this kind of burnt orange type of look to it. That inspiration draws back from those protesters / concert goers back into this shoe. High top, tumbled leather at certain sections, beautifully rich in its detailing, just beautifully paying homage to the one is the album, and over here is the key song. Bump it. I want to also share that many years ago, Public Enemy came to Johannesburg, South Africa, and I got an opportunity to actually have a chance meeting with him. I was walking in Sandton City, a mall close by, and I saw this tall guy walking with a jacket, and the back it said Public Enemy. And I'd approached him, and I knew that the group was going to be in town, and I asked him, listen, are you part of the crew? And he says, yes, I am, and he introduced himself to me as Malik Farrakhan. And I asked him jokingly, are you of any relation to Louis Farrakhan? And he said, yes, he's my father. So I thought that was cool, and I said to him, listen, I am going to the Public Enemy concert. Do you think there's a chance that you could introduce me to, the group? And he said to me, when you get to the concert, make sure that you and I see one another, and I'll make sure that I'll introduce you to Chuck afterwards. So the concert goes down, I'm mad excited, and I see Malik in the corner. We recognize one another. He gives me the good old nod, like, yep, it's on. I wait. After the concert, everything clears, and I got the opportunity to meet Chuck himself. This was my brother and I in the image. That's Malik that you're seeing in this part of the image over here. And it was really an amazing opportunity to just connect and cross paths with somebody that I admired so dearly. I mean, here's even a picture of me in my youth. And as you can see in the background, there's the Fear of a Black Planet album. I've enjoyed that Puma has understood the importance of this to pay homage to the Fear of a Black Planet album and the idea of fighting the power. And I want to ask you, what is there in your life that you need to fight the power? Where are you being oppressed? Are you a woman that is being oppressed? Fight the power. Are you feeling sexual abuse as a youth? Fight the power. Are you being judged for your sexual orientation? Fight the power. Are you a South African farmer that is being killed and is under oppression? Fight the power. Black lives matter. Fight the power.